The 12th of February 2024, you're very welcome back to Real True Education, Not Fake News. And this is one of the most joyful and positive videos I probably ever made and maybe ever will. And why can't we share the good news? Now, for better or for worse, over the last 12, 13 years, I have put my neck above the parapet and done the unpopular and said that the government's energy, climate, carbon and all of those plans were illegal. They weren't properly assessed under the SEA directive, and therefore all projects carried out under them are illegal. But I've also been saying that this whole drive to carbon neutrality and net zero is impossible, that it cannot be done, and that the fixes they have and the remedies they have to fix it do not work. And it took a long time. I even mentioned about electric cars not going to work and several other things. But the point is, eventually it got down to the farmers. And I am a farmer with a suckler herd in rural Ireland. And it got down where we were getting letters, I got them, to get rid of stock. And I'm very properly stocked. I keep my stock. It depends. Sometimes it's a wee bit up a bit. Sometimes it's a wee bit down. I might have a couple of grey ones there to feed on, and I try and keep them on, and then I produce maybe silage and hay, and sometimes I help my neighbours and sell a bit of that to them and all of that. And I have a way of going on that suits me and is very conducive to good animal health and all that. And I'm sure you can see in my videos on the cattle devices I'm doing that the cattle look grand and they're okay. They're in out of the weather and they'll be let out as soon as the weather improves. But the point about it is, folks, it got so bad that the farmers protested. I'll try and name some of the countries. Now, I have no script here, so remember. Wales has started. Ireland did it. Germany did it. France did it. Belgium did it. Switzerland, which is not in the EU, did it, and neither is Britain, by the way. Spain, Portugal, Albania, France. And anyway, it'd be easier to name some of those that didn't get involved in the protests. Perhaps Liechtenstein and Luxembourg, maybe Latvia, Lithuania, some of them. But anyway, the bulk of the farming countries in the European Union and outside it and Canada are now in a massive confrontation with government and the EU and the EU Commission, because they see, identical to what I was saying, these globalist elites have a grand design which includes all the things I talk about on my channel, which is destructive to the rural environment and would, if it got going and got ahead, would end up with the farmers driven off the land and the land being owned by big multinational companies who could do what they like. They wouldn't have the same husbandry, the same attention to detail, the same animal care, the same land care and all of that as the system that we have. And so the question then of food, and this is always said to me by farmers and others, you have to have food. Well, would you believe it, that the World Economic Forum and the George Soros types and the globalists and all these destructive forces, they do not understand that people have to eat. And the food you get is from the farmers. They do not understand that people have to eat. And people have become accustomed to very high quality products, very high quality food, very high quality yogurt, very high quality cheese, butter, spread mixes with butter, beef, lamb, pork and chicken. High quality stuff, no out rotten stuff, nothing. High quality. The public have come to accept this because in conjunction with the local departments, the farmers strive to increase the quality and all that of their product, even whether they're in the various schemes or not. They might get a little incentive I'm not in the quality assurance scheme yet, and still I strive for top quality. I don't actually need the money to do it. You get a certain satisfaction from what you produce. But in any event, I'm only small. The EU appears to have backed down. According to a report in the Daily Telegraph, and other reports, now the information is scant. One of the things that's gone, now don't forget what the farmers did. They had something that the ordinary Joe Soap did not have. They had big machines, tractors, trailers, slurry spreaders, and all the rest. That was the key. The ordinary person complaining about his lot or mortgage or something else or whatever can only assemble in the square and shout and bawl with a placard. The farmers had big 4x4 tractors, trailers, ploughs, muck spreaders, slurry spreaders, the whole lot. And they had the weapons. Just like in a war, you have to have artillery, you have to have tanks and all that. You needn't be going in with a Toyota Corolla into a war. So when it comes to protesting, no weapon is as good as the tractor. And in Spain, there's videos there. There's a lot of videos online, excellent videos on Rumble and YouTube. There's lines and lines and miles of protesting farmers. And in one case in Spain, it appears to be, the police set up a huge roadblock. They decided, we'll block these, and they set up a huge roadblock. They had military vehicles, they had all that the farmers couldn't get through. And so the police, many of them are farmers' sons themselves, they're in this difficult position with this madness. But the police thought they had the road completely blocked. And what did the farmers do? They simply drove into the field, each side of the barricade, and drove around the whole lot and proceeded on. And that's the sort of stuff that the EU and the governments could not deal with. The farmers have, as the standard equipment, the tractors and the machinery. No other sector, other perhaps than the truckers, have that. But even the truckers, if stopped, could possibly not go out into damp ground, into a field that probably get bogged down. But in the case of the farmer, with the four-wheel drive, no problem at all. And that was a big thing. They surrounded the European Parliament, they were everywhere. And these people had to keep the home fires burning. They had to have help at home. You just can't walk away from a farm for a couple of days. You have to have something like that, someone to help and someone to carry the story. So it was not easy and it wasn't simple. One of the things the farmers garnered or got was public support. The public were very, very supportive because the public knew only the farmers could do this. The next thing was the food got scarce on the shelves of Germany and France. And the EU began to look, oh my God, there's no food on the shelves. Well, I thought the food come from the supermarket. These idiots believe the milk comes out of a carton on the supermarket. That's it. They know McDonald's does burgers. That's it. You go in there. They haven't the brains to understand that the production of food is hard work. Cattle, particularly, are big animals. If you get a kick from one, you have to know the craft. If you get a kick even from a calf, it's very sore. If you get a kick from a big animal, it'll break your leg across. So there has to be craft involved in handling them. You just can't talk to them, no matter how docile you have them. And if you buy in ones, you could have an animal that's wild, and you have to handle all that. So the thing about it is, this is not appreciated. There is a hatred of the ordinary people by the EU. They broke all their promises when we voted for it. Ireland is now a net contributor to the EU. But the good news is that we seem to have had a climb down. There was a scheme to stop people eating beef and meat, and that seems to be gone. That is gone. Now again, this has to be finalised, but that's gone apparently. They've got that out of them. The emissions baloney, this thing of writing to me and telling me get rid of cattle, apparently that's gone. There may be some cap on overstocking by a few people. Very few farmers bother overstocking. There may be that. That's gone. The idea of wetting good farmland. So what they're trying to do is where there's low-lying farmland that was drained maybe 100 years ago is going to be re-wetted. Instead of trying to protect the heather mountains that we have, they're bulldozing them, pouring in concrete and building windmills, destroying the native grouse species and destroying birds. Instead of that, they want to try and encourage wildlife to create something like the Wexford slobs in various areas, when they won't look after the areas they already have. This is the crack they're at. So in any event, the back down on the emissions, that's a big thing. So how are they going to reach net zero now? The back down on the rebate on diesel. So for those who do not know it, farmers do not pay the road tax on diesel. They pay the carbon tax, and I think they do pay the VAT. They do, because there's VAT on my bill. I see it there. And even if you get it at the pumps, if I'm away and I need it for something, I get it at the pump, and you'll get a receipt and it'll show the value added tax on it. That's sales tax in America. So that's going to, they intended forcing the farmers to use road diesel, and the farmers have got them to block that, have forced them to block that. So there's a number of other things. I'll make a video when I get more information, but this possibly is one of the most important videos I ever made, because I think myself, a few people like me constantly harping away at this ridiculous situation. It eventually seeps in. They could even be watching videos like mine, and there certainly is that happening. Now, I said before, the Chinese, they said they will rule the world, but they produce all the devices. And there's another very, very positive aspect to this climb down by the EU. Nobody believes it's long term. Everyone believes they're going to come in again by the back door. That is a huge change. Time was the EU or the government could do something like this. I mean, it's the same as way back in an election in Ireland. They took the tax off cars. They took the tax, the monthly and yearly tax of cars, road tax. And that all came back again. So that was only a temporary thing to get Fianna Fáil into power. They do several things which are only temporary. So everyone knows that the immediate plan of the EU is to fool the farmers, fool the people by having a temporary. Now, that's all to be played for. We look at this again. But the farmers and the people who support them are well aware of what they're planning. They're well aware what they're planning. They're planning to bring this in again, but it'll definitely set them back a couple of years. That old Ursula von der Leyen, which one, she could be gone maybe by the time that it comes round again, and it's a victory for now. They also have another problem, is that they were going to give the money they saved of the road diesel, of the tractor diesel in Germany to Ukraine. They're now going to have to get that money somewhere else. So the whole thing is very volatile, but the whole thing was unsustainable. What would eventually happen is the whole economies of Europe and the United States and Canada would probably collapse under the weight of the debt. America has a debt that, I think it's 2030, I'll go back on this, it'll take all of the defence and social welfare budget to pay the interest on the debt they have, and nobody's lending to them in any event. So a lot of this is borrowed money, and that's a problem they have too. But these people are not logical. You must cast aside any logic when dealing with these people. It's the same, not comparing, or maybe comparing, if you have a dog or a cat, or indeed a cow or a sheep or something, and you want to give them, they're not feeling so well, and you want to give them an injection to make them better, antibiotic, they will not quietly accept the injection. You have to have a bit of restraint. And the same with the dog or whatever, or if he has a wee growth, he has to be anesthetized, or it has to be taken off. He will not go along with the surgery willingly. And that is the mentality of the European Commission, the Canadian government, and the present Biden administration. You can't reason with them. And they are welded into this, almost certainly have made signed agreements with the companies, with big companies and all that, and the big companies pay for their election funds, and they cannot go back, only when they have absolutely no option. When they're facing a situation in Europe with the food drying up. The farmers were being pushed out. Farming, I can tell you, you buy in a lot of inputs, you sell out your product, and you get a bit of a grant, and that's what keeps you going. And it's damn hard work. So the point is, folks, it is a joyful video. It is great that we got them this far, and we must build on it now, and we must also thank the public for supporting the farmers. I hope I've explained that. I'll have to come back with a wee bit more clarity when we find out what they're going to do, but there are two great developments. One is the EU Commission has backed down in their attack to drive the farmers out and replace the farmer with big multinational companies who would not be subject to any of these constraints or stuff or restrictions, and it is now done, but everyone knows if they can bring it back in, they will. And that is the really hurtful part for the World Economic Forum and all of these globalist crowd. And they talk about emissions, and they try to double the population of Ireland. They say we must reduce our carbon footprint, and they double the population. Just think of that. These people are head cases. And the people in the standard parties who go along with this, they're not as mad, some of them, as you'd think. They seem to have wit. But whatever the compulsion or the grip this ideology has on the politicians, one or two might change. I don't think they will. The only solution is to change them and put in another type of person altogether and confront all this. So there you are, folks. The European Union that was supposed to bring us so great joy and so much good developments has turned into a nightmare for the people of Europe. It's determined to quell and destroy the native populations. It's determined to attack our food supply. It's determined to kill the country way of life. It's determined to stop our children having the wherewithal to reproduce and get married. And it's doing everything possible to destroy the family and the nuclear family as well. And this is all under the guise that they're going to be able to change the climate when the area they influence is only 20% of the planet, and the rest of the world, which are denoted by the BRICS countries and the global south and all that, are quickly seeing that this whole thing is one massive scam, and they ain't going along with it. Neither China, Russia, India, or African countries or any are going to pursue or allow them to dictate this. The countries of Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and other countries in sub-Saharan Africa have kicked out the French. Put them out. Put them out. Get out. And they put a notice on the door, don't come back. So that's the story, folks. It's good news. I'm delighted with it. I can't believe it, really. I have to pinch myself here to think that I may not be getting letters to dump and get rid of my cattle and my stock, and we may be allowed farm productively and environmentally, and also that the governments of Europe and Ireland and Europe will have to comply with the SEA directive. They'll have to comply with a proper engineering assessment of all their plans and programs, and if they're not up to doing that, then they don't do it. That's what the law says, and that's what I've been working very hard, and some of my people watching me here have sent me money to try and help that in our case in Europe, which is still in there. This too may help with the European Court of Justice, because the European Court of Justice will now see this is not these mad plans are not assessed, but they're not even politically acceptable. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if the cases before the European Court, we will win them, and that will be another serious blow to these rascals. Oh, they are some rascals, and Ursula von der Leyen is the biggest one of all. She is not happy about this, nor are any of the rest of the Commission. They're not happy about it, to be forced to change their way. Why did we let us in for this? What will happen in the future? Should we be in the EU at all? Well, I believe the answer to that is tell them we're going to leave. And when they realise that there'll be more Britons, like more than Britain, doing a Brexit, they might be forced to appoint people in the European Parliament, in the European Commission, and in the leader of the European Union, like Ursula von der Leyen, appoint someone with a modicum of sense and none of this mad climate baloney. Folks, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We'll see you back for something soon. Good news anyway, and we'll do more on this. Thank you.